This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking the complete Monterey Pop Festival from 1968, with little bits and pieces from 1986 and little bits and pieces from 1987, directed by one D.A. Pennebaker. The tagline of this film, the Monterey Pop Festival itself. Do you know where your kids are hanging out tonight?
That's really weird, man. What does that mean?
Featuring performances by popular artists of the 1960s, this concert film highlights the music of the 1967 California Festival. Although not all musicians who performed at the Monterey Pop Festival are on film, some of the notable acts include the Mamas and the Papas, Simon and Garfunkel, Jefferson Airplane, The Who, Otis Redding, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Hendrix's post-performance antics, lighting a guitar on fire, breaking it, and tossing a part into the audience, are captured. So, RJ, this is a first-time watch for me. And as some listeners might be aware, I was recently asked in our mailbag what film of the collection next I was least looking forward to.
Yes.
Perhaps the wording was even dreading. And it was this.
Why, Jer?
Well, RJ,
Because you don't listen to music?
I listen to music.
Okay.
But my relationship with music is I like listening to my music on my headphones. While perhaps doing something else other than watching TV. So, I mean, there's like a line where, like, you know, you're watching a movie and it has some really great music in it. And I go, wow, that's really good music. I'd like to listen to it outside of this experience.
Sure.
And so I like to go walking. I like to, you know, sit in a room, draw, listening to some music, perhaps even a podcast. But I'm not a musician. I don't have a musical bone in my body. Besides, I like what I like to hear. That's about the end of it.
Okay.
So the idea of having to sit down to watch a music festival, which is a thing that I would probably not go to in person myself, it just adds an extra layer. Because RJ, I've been to one like music festival in my life, and essentially it was just an excuse for people to go drink, get drunk, do drugs, hang out, have fun. But music seemed to be like the lowest priority possible. Like like there's some people that are there for the music, man, support the artists. But I find that for the most part, it has very little to do with that. So it's always kind of like this. You get like crowd shots, for instance, in this film, where like, these are the people who are like, this is their like the window of time that they went to check out the act that they might have wanted to see. And hell, maybe there's like a lot of people who wanted to go see an act, but they just totally forgot that they were playing at that moment because they were having too much fun elsewhere.
So Jarrett,
yeah.
What is your so I think I get your stance on festivals. What about live music in general? I know you went to a Slayer concert not too long ago, but other than Slayer and what's his name, Nick Cave, what's your opinion on live music in general?
I could take it or leave it.
That's kind of what I figured. Okay.
Yeah, I have no great love of going to see, like, if there's like, even if when there's an act I really want to see, it's like, maybe.
Is it the people?
Through. No, I find that I just don't really enjoy the experience a ton. It's not super memorable. Like when I saw, like, I think the last time I went to a actual concert, it was that Slayer show, and that was fine. It went too long for my tastes, even though I was like, I guess I was getting my
probably like 2 hours.
I was getting my money's worth, and it was longer than 2 hours because there was like 3 opening acts on top of that. So. It's
like $5 an hour.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, I guess like whatever it was, $70 a ticket or something like that. Not crazy, but I don't know. Like, there's just other things I'd rather do. So yeah, live music is a thing to go to. Not my thing. And somewhere in all this, you have the concert DVD in my mind, like where it's like, the idea of like, if there was like an Eagles concert DVD in the Criterion Collection, I wouldn't be excited. And it has nothing to do with like, it's the Eagles. I mean, I don't know, or like Fleetwood Mac. Like, I don't go, like, this is like the definition of like dad media. Like, this idea of like the people I know who are into this are dads.
Go on.
I don't know. So, I don't know. This was exactly what I expected. It's not terrible. It's not like a bad thing or anything like that, but it's just not that interesting to me. If I wanted to listen to the Mamas and the Papas, there's like the two songs of theirs worth listening to. They're like the classic singles that, as I joke on my Letterboxd review, it's like, wow, AM radio. This is all these acts for the most part. And now I know what they look like performing in their prime.
Okay.
That's kind of ultimately what I walked away with this from. And of course, like, there's things that kind of bug me. I'm sure there was the decision made where, like, we're not going to have like titles introducing who each of these acts are. We're just going to assume that in 1968, anyone watching this is going to know exactly who they are. But the problem, RJ, I don't know if you had this, 50 years later, it's like, who is that? I have no idea, other than like, there's like obvious people that you can go, oh, that's Jimi Hendrix. He stands out. He doesn't look like a whole lot of people.
What does he look like?
Wonderfully dressed. Like,
correct.
That yellow shirt of his is amazing, and it's kind of like when you watch, you go, oh, that's where Prince got that.
Yep.
No.
Were there any bands that you could pick out from appearance alone, not with the music playing, but if you looked at them, you could pick them out?
Okay. There's like Simon and Garfunkel.
Like the Who.
Even the Who, I wouldn't really know what they look like. Like, those guys are like the most generic looking men on the planet. Like, they're not they're not noteworthy. They're not ugly or good looking enough in either way. They're just there.
They're just people.
They're just people.
Well, the Mamas and the Papas for Mama Cat.
Well, I was going to say, so the Mamas and the Papas has kind of been ruined for me because
of Austin Powers.
No, actually, it was a TV show called Snuffbox. It's this British show, and Rich Fulcher plays Mama Cass, and it's completely just when I see Mama Cass, I just think of Rich Fulcher dressed as a woman. That's all I see.
I think of Austin Powers because of that joke where she dies from a ham sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. That's good comedy, Jarrett.
Right.
That's the kind of wholesome, family-friendly comedy that I'm all about.
Like The New Kid.
Like the what now?
The New Kid.
What is that?
It's a movie you've seen.
So this is preamble talk, but Jarrett has this secret club of friends that got together on the weekend and went through my Letterboxd history, and they were just laughing and making fun of all of these movies that I had seen.
Not quite.
What is The New Kid? The first result for The New Kid, I haven't seen that. You're confusing me now. But anyways, Jarrett has a secret club of people where they laugh about the movies that I have logged on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Is it hurtful? You bet it is.
But does that have anything to do with Jefferson Airplane?
It's got everything to do with Jefferson Airplane. What are you talking about?
I know about that Jefferson Airplane, but how about Big Brother and the Holding Company?
Well, I mean, Janis Joplin was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had an idea what she looked like. And it's like, oh,
she's a groovy chick, man.
There she is. Well, she's bad complexion, like very pimply.
They call that real, Jarrett.
Yeah. You know, probably one of my favorite vocalists that pops up in this, though, is Eric Burdon, The Animals.
Yeah, Andrew is a big fan of The Animals.
Yeah, Eric Burdon's pretty rad. It says nobody sounds like him. People try, everyone fails. I'm also a really big fan of Otis Redding. And so I was very excited to see that not only does he appear in this segment of this, but then you get to see like another like 20 minutes of like repetitive information in the subsequent mini documentary that accompanies this collection.
One of my notes was that Otis Redding really brought some life to this sad, somber, depressing concert because I think you get like 3 or 4 acts in a row that are like just really just like slow moving, kind of like, this is what it is, man. And then Otis Redding comes out and he's like, how y'all doing tonight, baby? And then he kind of like dances a little bit and you're like, man, this guy's like actually kind of pumping the crowd a little bit.
So there's the context of that, I guess, is he was going on last and everybody had gone long that night and people were like leaving. And then like one of the Smother Brothers came out and like kind of try to work the crowd up, building up Otis Redding. Then Redding come up and he's just like does the whole shake thing and just gets the crowd fired up because that man knew how to work a stage.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, he's like definitely like he is on a different level of like performer.
Yeah. Well, that's his thing stands out in this because it's like his is the most energetic and like dynamic show that there is for anyone, even with the Who being fucking crazy and Jimi Hendrix doing his thing. Otis Redding, I think, is the one that stands out. It's like, man, that would have been the fun one to go to.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know if you listened to Otis Redding much, like any of his albums.
Like not full albums. I know Otis Redding. Yeah. I have like I don't know. I think like a greatest hits, which I think this is a music episode, so I'll bring it up. What's your opinion on that? Because I know some people who are actually very anti greatest hits. Yeah, they're like, you better get that album, and it's like I get that. There's a lot of bands I have the albums too, but like back in car days, CD days, it's like, you know what? Sometimes the greatest hit was the best bet, so you didn't have to change that CD every fucking 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mind it, but I know there are some purists that get real upset when you talk about that.
Yeah. So on that topic, I would say that I'm indifferent. I'm not a purist, but I mean, I think if you really want to, if you become a real fan, if you want to become a real fan, you got to go into those albums. You got to listen to those deeper cuts. You got to gain an appreciation for the full album.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's certain acts though, like the pop acts, where the greatest hits will do you good. Like that's all you need, because sometimes greatest hits sometimes suck. Like they're front loaded and they're filled with a bunch of crap at the back. And that's kind of it's like I don't know. I'd rather listen to
one of these podcasts.
I'd like to listen to like a properly designed album, like that's like really been thought out, rather than the greatest hits. Because sometimes like some of their best albums are greatest hits. Like Rolling Stones' Hot Rocks, I think it's a fantastic compilation of all their early stuff, rather than sorting through a whole bunch of stuff. It's like that works really, really well. But I don't think that's when people are talking, like they more like, oh, why did you get that thing where it says the greatest hits? And some people,
see. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like I think bands I actually like, I have all their albums, and like it's worth it for those hidden gems. But there are certain ones like Bare Naked Ladies' greatest hits is far better
than any other albums.
than any other albums, because it's got 19 tracks. It's got everything you want on there, but it has some live versions of a few of their songs, which I hold, and I'll challenge anyone on it. Those live versions are better than their actual studio recorded. The live version of Brian Wilson on that thing is better than any of those studio ones. So it's a mixed bag, but I just brought it up because I've had people verbally get like actually physically mad at me because I was like, yeah, I have greatest hits CDs, and they're like, what are you, fucking piece of shit? And I'm like, no, it's easy and convenient sometimes. I don't know, like don't yell at me.
Well, RJ, if you do like that Otis Redding, you should be checking out the complete and unbelievable Otis Redding was it Dictionary of Soul? That's very good. And then then there's the Dock of the Bay and Otis Redding Sings Blue Soul. Those are both outstanding. I've listened to those many times. Yeah.
I like soul music and I like the blues. I listen to the blues a lot when I'm reading, but I'm more of a funk man myself. So I'm more into Parliament and George Kennedy and that heavy funk, you know, like when you get a good cheese and you're like, ooh, baby.
Jimi Kennedy.
Ooh, George Kennedy. That's some heavy funk. Anyways, what were we talking about?
We're talking about musical acts.
Sure.
We have the Jimi Hendrix Experience, which, I mean, I'm indifferent to Jimi Hendrix. I know that's like probably hearsay, but whatever. I mean, it's fine. I think I own both the big albums of his, but I never listened to them. I owned them. I got them.
Jimmy?
And then,
I think you get enough Jimmy in like cultural, like TV and movies that everyone knows Jimi Hendrix's songs just because of movies.
Well, this would be a good time to throw in my so one of the things that I hate when it comes to music and music people is like guitars and like virtuosos, because people get hung up on this stuff like Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton and like Jack White. People get like fucking so obsessed with this.
Jeff Beck.
Sure, I don't know. Is he one of those two? Like he could do anything with
Beck?
a guitar.
Yeah, he was at Monterey Pop. He was in the Byrds, baby. Oh. They say he is the third greatest living guitarist.
Sure. Okay. So I remember going to this party after work when I was working at a grocery store, like when I was like 18 years. Yeah, back then. This is maybe why I don't anymore. And I went I was invited to go to this thing, and it was like it wound up being like a whole bunch of strangers that I did not know, and they were just all sitting around drinking beer, smoking pot, and watching concert videos of like these virtuoso guitar players. And the guys are just saying, "Oh man, he's such a virtuoso," and I hate that word. I fucking hate it. And
I've never come across this before. This sounds like a weird Jarrett thing.
No, it's not, because it came to me from these motherfuckers, and they just kept talking, and then some guy pulled out his guitar and like was noodling around horribly, and they're like, "Yeah, you're really good." And it's like, no. So this is all the thing where it's like, yeah, no, like Jimi Hendrix is like super talented and like really good, and he has like a total. I get it. I get the screen presence thing. Like that yellow shirt of his, the puffy shirt. He looks amazing, and the rest of his bandmates look like complete like dopes.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you on that a little bit, where I would actually say Pete Townsend of the Who is more talented, because he did all the like songwriting for the Who and like played guitar. Maybe he couldn't play as fast and as like efficiently as Jimi Hendrix, but I think he was a better like musician than Jimmy. But there's some candid stuff about Pete Townsend talking about how he felt not intimidated, but basically belittled by Jimi Hendrix's performance at these things, because he was like, man, that guy's way better than me.
Well, there's a thing about them like apparently supposedly coming to blows because one of them they didn't want to go on after the other, and so when the Who went out, that's why the guitar gets smashed up. And then it's like, fuck you, I'm going to set my guitar on fire. This is like, fucking, such.
Well, the Who also.
How Chudley is this?
How Chudley? Yeah. I can talk about, when I get to it, I'll talk about that. I was going to say, I'm of two minds of that. Since it's the music episode, and it's an important one because it's like one of the first big festivals, so we can talk about music in general. I've never had the virtuoso thing, but I have been to many parties where Pearl Jam Live has been playing in the background. Nobody has been like talking about the virtuoso of the concert playing, but you know what they did have, Jarrett? In the slipcase of the DVD, it had a full list of every song that was played, and you could skip to it.
Okay, so this is the thing.
Because I watched this specifically for you.
Yeah, so I watched this on the Criterion channel, and you're just thrown right into like the fucking heat of it.
It just starts, man.
It just starts, and it doesn't. There's no introduction, and you like. I'm like watching this. I'm like you need a cheat sheet to watch this. Like, there's like no, like if you are coming at this and you don't have a lot of context, you're fucked. And I'm like, okay, now I have to like go to the Wikipedia entry, and now I have to like look up what piece of the show I'm at now, or I have to like look up notes. And I'm like, well, if I'm doing that, I mean, I just well just like make my own documentary and listen to the music by itself. I don't need this particular performance, because like I don't know, I've read some people say that they're not really big fans of the way that this is shot, and like the presentation of it's like not that great.
I have something to say about that, but yeah.
And so I don't know, I did say I do think that the sound recording of this is actually really nice. Like you don't have like that real like washed out sound space that where it's like very like unfocused. Like it's very clear, good sound recording quality wise. But then there's times where like they cut way too soon from like the crowd audience, like the crowd reactions to stuff, and you're like, oh, that just ended. Like it just ends sometimes, and other times it continues on. So there's some questionable editing. Well, I want to save the main event. I want to save Ravi for the end there.
Ravi Shankar?
Oh my god.
We can talk about Ravi Shankar.
Okay, well,
or later, sure. So keep going. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. So
throughout this thing, there's like times where like I'm like, oh, there's like the shots of like people just wandering around, and you're like, yep, these are the same type of people who go to shows and these things to this day. You see these people around. There's the hanger-oners, the ones that are like, I just adopt the style of the time, and you can see that this person, like after this is done, is very well adjusted and goes back to their regular life, and will like change their clothing and style to fit whatever the next thing is. They're just like there in the scene, and they're like, yeah, far out, dude.
Did you happen to notice my review of the Monterey Pop Festival?
I saw some mention of Coachella.
Yeah, it seemed very fitting. Well, it's funny because like everyone rips on Coachella for all the white people wearing like First Nations headdresses and like cultural appropriation and this and that. And then you watch Monterey Pop, which is from '68, and you're just like, they were fucking doing it then too. It's like you said, it's the same fucking people. They're like wearing like headdresses. They're erecting teepees. They're doing like bead craft and stuff like that. It's all about a good time, man.
Yeah, well, there was a moment they were going to, because like out of this era, you get like the acid westerns, and you had a lot of like Charles Manson was dressed in like an Indian man living out in the desert and stuff like that, and yeah, there was a lot of what you would call it, cultural appropriation going on before that was a thing that anyone was really worried about, and now obviously it's changed, but it's kind of the same difference. And like, yeah, there's so much, there's a lot of cultural baggage that goes along with these things, where it's like, yeah, I think that, you know, Native Americans, they're just so much more closer to nature and like community. And you're like, no, they weren't. It's like, that's bullshit.
Like, who were you talking to?
Yeah, they just make it up, you know. I think that people just make things up and make up their own truths about life, and I don't know if that's ever going to change. And then music festivals are like just they all show up at one place at the same time, and yeah, here they are being filmed, and you're like, oh look, here's like a very attractive woman that's smiling at the camera, and like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm on camera. It's like, oh, it's like that's never changed. That never will.
Jared, it's playful.
It's so playful.
It's playful.
And it's, and it's like people bring their dogs and cats.
So I have a real issue with that. There's people who have like kittens like being born, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing bringing like a Jamiroquai hat full of fucking kittens to a music festival?
Well, they might have found those, like, because they're out like in a park.
They could have, but you know what one really fucking pissed me off? At an hour and 1 minute, there's this real piece of shit person, who has a capuchin monkey, and he painted love on its fucking forehead. What kind of piece of shit person thinks that, like, doesn't see the irony in that? It's like, I'm gonna preach love, man, by painting it on this fucking animal's forehead, dude.
Maybe it wound up biting his face off. I don't know.
It's like getting a pig and spray painting PETA on on its ribs or something. Is that something that's happened before? Probably, right?
Probably.
Yeah, I had a real issue with that. I thought that was horseshit watching this.
One of the moments of joy for me in this, there's like the one dude who's testing out the sound system of the arena right at the beginning, and he's like so happy when it's like working, and he's like getting to work with a real one. He's like groovy, like he's so happy. I'm like, aw, because like nowadays, what would the person say? They wouldn't be saying groovy. They'd be like, fucking
check one, two.
No. But like after responding, their enthusiasm would be like, shit, yeah. Sweet.
Shit, yeah, bro.
not this guy going groovy. Oh man, it's so good. I've never heard of a good sound system before. I'm like, wow, he's so enthusiastic. Like he's like just pleases punch.
The tongue changes, man.
Yeah. You know? That's kind of my broad strokes. Sure. RJ, what did you think here of your rewatch of this Monterey Pop?
My rewatch, yeah. So the long-lived infamy episode of the Monterey Pop Festival, a rare occurrence where I have seen this. I actually own this, and I watched it, and then Jarrett hadn't. So I watched this thing again. The reason I own this, I didn't buy this. It was gifted to me by my old boss, who I did my grad studies with. He is a big-time music guy.
Is he a dad?
A later day dad. He had his first kid when he was like 45.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he's a later, but that's the academic research game, man. Like, you don't have kids until you're super old. He's a groovy dude. He was very groovy. So he gave this to me because he always kind of built it up. He's like, yeah, Monterey Pop's awesome because it is arguably the first ever festival. Because there's like talk how there was one a couple months earlier, but it was a different style of music. So it's kind of the first ever rock festival. And he was one of those guys, like not in an asshole way, but would talk about what rock means, like rock and roll, because he grew up and his favorite band was The Who, and he viewed the Who as rock and roll. I actually went with him to The Who for their 50th anniversary tour like 3 years ago. And then I also saw ZZ Top with him and Jeff Beck, that fabled guitar player that I mentioned earlier. So this dude, Rob McD, he knew a lot about music. And he was always really fun to talk to about music because he just had a really deep like background and breadth of knowledge. So anyways, he gave it to me because he's like, this is like one of the first big actual rock festivals. And he's like, on top of that, he's like, it's just a recorded one of like it's like a live show. And because he would watch live shows too. And like I said, I actually do watch live concerts because like DVD versions, because I think they're good for certain parties. So a lot of parties that I used to go to were like packed houses, where you just kind of like shuffle around with people. And then what was usually going on was in the living room, you'd have a TV, you'd pop in that Pearl Jam live at the Garden or something, and you just turn it up, and then it would be the entertainment for the entire party. So there would always be like 2 or 3 dudes sitting in there watching it, but most of the people were just kind of like hanging out in other rooms, and not even really even listening. But I mentioned it to you because they had like the back of the DVD had the song list, and I think it was even like you could skip. So it was like broken up into chapters on the DVD, where it was like 4 or 5 minute segments where you could skip songs and stuff like that. So that's what it should have been. What was I talking about? Monterey Pop. Oh yeah. So yeah, I watched this before. It was mostly for the Who segment of this, which is pretty short lived. It's like 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Not like not unlike their actual appearance, which apparently was like only 25 minutes long. I guess because like what you said, there was a little bit of a disagreement, and the Who were kind of like, I think Pete Townsend was not like difficult, but he was kind of like he liked to do things his way. So I think it was like when they didn't do that, he was like, you know what, fuck this. And then they destroyed all their sound equipment, which if you ask my old boss, he would accredit the Who as the first band to ever actually do that. Is that true? I don't know. It sounds like it. He made a convincing point. So they do that. And that's basically all you see about the Who, right? He sings My Generation for a little bit, and then it's just them destroying all their shit. So that's cool. What was I going to say about Monterey Pop? Oh, yeah, I like Monterey Pop. I think it's fine. I can see why like people like you who don't enjoy music, as we discussed in the preamble, or just anyone who isn't really a fan of live music or anything like that might not like it. I like going to concerts, like how we talked with you before, but it is getting more frustrating now because of the people, because it's all young. It's like I'm the old guy now, where one of the last concerts I went to that I really wanted to be at, I was on the floor and I was close to the stage, and it was all these like early 20s, and none of them were there. None of them knew, or like were there for the band. None of them knew the music. They were all kind of doing their own thing. And it was very annoying and frustrating. So I guess I am super old now, but the last couple concerts I've been to, I've been like, I don't like this anymore, because the crowds bother me because of what people are like.
Well, yeah, I mean that's like our problem with theaters.
It's a problem with going in public in general. Everyone's so shitty now.
Going to restaurants, getting gas.
Yeah. So Monterey Pop, I like some elements of the filming here. Like I like where the emphasis is on the performer and not necessarily the crowd, because there's a lot of segments where you don't see the crowd at all. It's just focus on the performer. And then there are some cool ones. Like I think it's the Otis Redding one where the camera is actually behind him, and then you get the spotlight coming into the camera, and you just see it's kind of like outline. That's super cool.
That best part, that's the best shot of the movie. Even though it's like frustrating at times when you're like, no, quit moving, stay in silhouette, and then he moves and then just blasts you with the light. Like, God, get back and stand back where you were.
So that's super cool. I actually saw Pearl Jam live one time where they sold tickets behind the stage, and we sat behind them, which was like, it was really like unique, I guess, because what you see is them from the back, and then you see the full stadium in front of them. So that was cool. But it was kind of, that shot reminded me of that, just because that's an experience I've had. So I thought it was nice that they, for the most part, kept them separate, where it was like you would show the performer and then you would show shots of the crowd, or you would show like the festival goers, which I actually liked that they included that, where it's like the arts and crafts section or the people erecting teepees,
Yep.
or the piece of shit people with like their animals that they brought to a music festival. But I did like that they kept it separate. I don't know why. I thought it made it more documentary style. I don't know if that's like, I don't know what it was. I was like, this is more of like a movie than a live show, because the live show you would have the crowd, the noise of the crowd. Where in this, I didn't think you could hear the crowd at all. Yeah. And when it cuts to the crowd, they're all like sitting in their seats listening. So where if you watch any live concert from the last 20 years that's on DVD, it'll be like Eddie Vedder would be like, "What's up, baby?" And it'll be like, "Ah!" I don't know. Did you get any of that in this? I didn't get it, unless I just missed it.
Like what, the crowd sounds?
Yeah,
no. I was like, that's what I was commenting about, like how like precise the actual music comes through. It's almost too precise, like where you don't hear like the low live kind of audio sounds. But yeah, you don't hear the crowd until the documentary lets you hear the crowd.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool, actually. But yeah, I like the presentation of it. I think it's a cool thing. Like, this is what I've mentioned where I was like, there's three different areas I think that things should be in Criterion. I think this falls under that historically significant one.
Yeah.
I know it's not for everyone. I know a lot of people won't like this, and that's fine.
Well, it's just more indifferent. Like, it's kind of like, I don't want to watch this, but I'm now contractually obligated to watch it. So I'll watch it, but at the same time, like, I would never watch this ever otherwise, because it's just like, unless I was like, I really want to know about the history of rock festivals, and then you would probably check this out, kicking off that Summer of Love. And,
for sure. Yeah, I think this one also has like there is unique history to it between like the bands that showed up and then the bands that didn't, and kind of like what the significance of it was, where it's like I was saying, this is kind of like the first one, but I'm sure you have something to say about that too. Like the bands that canceled or weren't like declined.
Well,
you're like,
hey, I've got Wikipedia.
Yeah, you got Wikipedia. I will say, out of the bands that were there, I like the Who the most. Jefferson Airplane is like groovy. I think Jimi Hendrix is cool. Otis Redding, I think, is definitely the best performance. The one I really don't care for, and I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this, but one band I really fucking hate is the Grateful Dead.
Oh no!
I hate those piece of shit fucking people.
I don't think anyone actually likes the Grateful Dead. Like, I've yet to meet
Jarrett.
anyone who actually likes them. I know there's Deadheads, but
Jarrett.
Yeah.
I lived in a dorm room in America.
Oh man.
And there were people I knew who would every time we went to some place, like say there was a chalkboard or a whiteboard, or it was at a party and there was like a fridge with like something on it, they would draw that Grateful Dead fucking bear every single time we went somewhere. And all I ever heard were people in my dorm talking about either Grateful Dead or what's that band? It's not like Santana, but it's like, ain't got no Sangria. Holy fuck, that was a interesting song I sang.
Were those words?
I'll figure that out. Anyways, it's the same people. I really, really dislike Grateful Dead fans.
Wow. I've never met one. I just know, like, in popular culture, it's made fun of, and like everyone's like, I don't know, people pick on him like Willie Nelson, which is like, I don't think that's right.
But Willie Nelson in concert, he was fine.
Yeah, he'd be fine. But Jerry Garcia and that whole scene, I just like, nah. Not my thing. But you know what, RJ? I'm gonna throw out there that I'm pretty indifferent to the Who.
Santeria by Sublime. Sublime fans are the same as Grateful Dead fans.
Oh, I thought you were. See, I was like thinking you were talking about like the era, but you're talking about Sublime.
Sublime and Grateful Dead fans are the same people, and I hate them. And yeah, I understand. A lot of people are indifferent to the Who. I was, until I met a guy who had seen the Who in the 70s and has been praising them since then, and like getting other people to listen.
Right.
And so it's just through him. Like I watched, they'll pop up again in the collection when we hit Quadrophenia.
That's true. I like Quadrophenia fine, but
yeah, and that's just a movie version of their big album.
The double.
Whatever. Yeah. So like I know a lot about the Who for that reason, but I understand why they're some people are not too hot on them. Hey, why don't you tell me about Ravi Shankar?
Well, RJ, Ravi Shankar. He's the he got paid for this show. So okay, here's the thing. Here's a fun fact. The artist performed for free, and all revenue donated to charity, except for Ravi Shankar, who was paid $3,000 for his afternoon-long performance on the sitar. Country Joe and the Fish were paid $5,000, not by the festival itself, but from revenue generated from the Pennebaker documentary. The artists did, however, have their flights and accommodation paid for. Apart from Shankar, each act was given up to 40 minutes for the performance. Several ended their sets earlier, including The who played for only 25 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so old Ravi. So there comes a point in this documentary around the 1 hour mark where it just cuts to crowd shots for like 10 minutes, and it's sitar music, and you're just like, okay, what's going on? Like, what's happening here? Like, what's happening? Like, I don't get it. Like, this is bizarre. And then eventually they cut to the stage, and there's Ravi rocking out, doing some like flamenco style, like conversational sitar shit. And this goes on for another 10 minutes. And then the crowd erupts. Holy shit. Like all the acts that were there, they're all sitting in the front row to watch this, and they lose their minds. Everyone's on their feet and applauding. And I'm like, what the fuck? What is going on here? So one of the things that is a failure of this documentary for like not explaining very well is he was performing for like 4 hours.
That fucking blows my mind. It's like it totally makes sense for me for what I know of Ravi Shankar, but it's like that anyone would allow him to do that just fucking blows my mind. And I don't know about you, Jarrett, but my first experience with Ravi Shankar was The Simpsons, where it's Krusty's Variety Hour, and he's like, now the musical stylings of Ravi Shankar, and he's like, Shankar. And I've always thought of Ravi Shankar in my mind, in my heart, forever, because of that Simpsons episode. So I don't know about you, but that's just me.
I honestly had no idea really who this was. Like, it's like,
yeah, okay, nobody does. Why would you?
Well, okay, no, he like became like famous because of this and because of the Beatles, right? George Harrison, like that sound came from this, and like that, like this, there was a moment like sitar becomes the cliche music of this era, for because of this. Like it's just, it's inescapable. But boy, oh boy, is it just like, to me it's just like a comical sound. Like it's just like it's like usually it has like such like a like
Seinfeld.
No, yeah, Seinfeld. No, it has like I don't know, to me it's like racial connotations. Like people use it as like comedy music to like, oh, this person's from India and they play sitar music over it. It's just like any other, like when they play like, oh, this people are Asian, so you have Asian flutes play. And like
for what we've noticed a lot, Africa, the drums.
Oh yeah. And like Middle Eastern stuff, to me it's like
what?
The like there's this chanting in the Meccan chanting, like you just hear that, and like so to me I'm like, there's nothing like magical about it because of its use and abuse in cliches and movies. Like so to me I'm like, oh yeah, this is like definitely something I would never listen to in my entire life. One thing, so I was like, what is Ravi Shankar's deal? And I'm like, oh, one of his children, his daughter is Norah Jones.
That blows my mind. So
this is the thing where I kind of laughed at that because I'm like, oh, so that's why Norah Jones wound up with a career. Because like you think there's like, sure,
whoa, that's a loaded sentence.
No, it's because a lot of these famous people, these celebrities, these actors, these people are like come out of nowhere seemingly. And then you're like, oh, I understand now. They're like, they come from like the hierarchy, you know. They come from that. So you're, but then they don't promote that. Like I had no idea. It's not like a secret, but like I've never heard this in my entire life. And anyone I've brought this up to, they're like, I had no idea. But I mean, they don't like sound anything alike. Like there's no influence. It's like they're musicians.
Well, I mean,
you want to see something like upsetting? Look at Ravi Shankar in 2012 before he died.
Oh.
Boy,
when did you look up Ravi Shankar?
Sorry, 2009. There's a photo of him on his Wikipedia in Delhi.
Well, okay, 2009. Yeah, if I looked 3 years after he died, I think there would be some upsetting.
Well, I mean, at that point, he was
imagery.
like, I think like 90. He probably would.
He looks pretty good.
90 years old, man. I just like scrolled through and went, whoa.
I don't know. He looks better than you do right now, present day.
It's like Grandpa from Texas Chainsaw.
A little bit, I guess. I guess. Nora Jones, hey?
I keyed. Anyway,
Ravi
Shankar.
Shankar.
It's 20 minutes of that rocking out, and it just this explosion of this relief that he did it. I mean, I'm sure playing that for that long, 4 hours, that's pretty incredible. That is like a technical feat that like most would be like, I mean, musicians would be most appreciative of it. And again, RJ, it falls into the virtuoso area.
Do you know how sore his fucking fingers probably were?
Oh yeah. Like you don't do that. You don't play that long. So like there's like that endurance aspect to it, but you're like, but do I still want to listen to this?
Again, what a lot of people say about this podcast. It's that endurance aspect, but do you really want to listen anymore?
No, we're the Ravi Shankar at Monterey Pop of podcasts. Hey, one fun fact. So you know those really nice looking background animations that are like on the projection sometimes?
Oh, sure.
That where you actually would know who the band is if you didn't know. It's very helpful information. Those were done by an artist named Tommy Ungerer, who's like an illustrator, children's book illustrator. He just died like a couple months ago, and I'm like, I had never really heard of him, but when I saw that name pop up when I was reading about this, I was like, oh, I actually know who that is. So,
did he die?
He did.
Did he though?
No. Hey, you want me to run through the letterbox synopsis of Jimmy Plays Monterey?
Oh yeah, I didn't see either of those two. I logged them, but I didn't actually look. I didn't think they were real pages.
Oh well. So this clip emerges in 1986, this like 40 or 50-minute long documentary. It's no exaggeration to say this might be the most intense and groundbreaking 45-minute performance in the history of rock.
Wow.
Fuck off. It's not even 45 minutes long. There's like a whole bunch of like filler in this. Like
spray paint graffiti for 10 minutes at the start.
No, 10 minutes, RJ. You exaggerate as bad as this exaggerator.
Hey, maybe it is the most important thing ever.
It's so 86. Jimi Hendrix's debut American set at 1967's Monterey Pop Festival is generally considered one of the most radical and legendary live shows ever. Virtually unknown to American audiences at the time, even though he was already established as an entity in the UK, Hendrix and his two-piece experience explode on stage, ripping through blues classics like Rock Me Baby and Howlin' Wolf's Killin' Floor, interpreting and electrifying Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone, debuting songs for his yet-to-be-released first album, and closing with the now historic sacrificing burning of his guitar during an unhinged version of Wild Thing that even its writer Chip Taylor would never have imagined.
This is the synopsis on Letterboxd?
Yes. Hendrix uses feedback and distortion to enhance the songs in whisper-to-scream intensity, blazing territory that had not been previously explored, with as much soul-frazzled power. So for me, this was the low light of the three. Because, like I said, I'm fine with Jimi Hendrix, but it's nothing I'm like super down with.
Yep. I like Jimmy. The only thing I actually really liked was when he was covering that Bob Dylan song.
Yeah, and there's like the one bit like at the very beginning where they're showing, hey, here's him like at another festival like recent or a couple years earlier with the Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club cover, which like apparently which I read that cover was performed like a few days after that album had just come out. So, I mean, wow, a musician's really good at picking stuff up and making it sound pro. And I guess like Paul McCartney says it's still like one of the best like things he's ever heard, like a dedication to like something that he's done. He's like, wow, that thing's amazing. And yeah, I don't know. I'd just rather listen to a Jimi Hendrix album than ever watch this thing or tell people to watch it. I mean, to me, this feels like a special feature. I'm not even sure, like, I don't know if you like read the notes for this release, like what the context of this documentary was, like why it didn't get released till 1986. Like, do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts about this 50-minute thing?
Oh, Monterey Pop?
The Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah.
fuck, it's fine. I think what they took out for the actual Monterey Pop was enough.
Yep.
Because I remember watching the first 10 minutes, I was like, "Where's Jimmy?" And he wasn't there. Weird. And then you get the other half hour, and you're like, "This is fine." But I don't think he was necessarily the best live vocalist. So like he's singing, and you're like, "That sounds fine." I know he's all about the guitar for that. What did you describe it as? Metamorphic guitaring or something?
Virtuoso.
Yeah, so that's fine. I don't know. It was all right. Like I think I'm on mostly on. I think I might like Jimmy more than you, but at the same time, I was like, I didn't need this.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, it's fine, but it's just like again, this is not the format I want to watch this in, or I don't even want to watch it. I'll listen to it maybe, and not even then. And then Shake, Otis at Monterey. This was released in 1987.
Yeah.
Renowned documentary filmmaker D.A. Pennebaker captures Otis Redding in his ascendancy, singing at the historic Monterey International Pop Festival in June 1967. Comedian Tom Smothers introduces Redding to a crowd that is leaving until Redding grabs them with his charged rendition of Shake. Redding's performance also includes Respect, which he wrote, I've Been Loving You Too Long, Satisfaction, and Try a Little Tenderness. Tragically, Redding died in a plane crash 6 months later. He did. And an innovative filmmaker who started in the 1950s making experimental films, Pennebaker garnered an Oscar nomination for Best Documentary Feature in 1993 for The War Room, his behind-the-scenes look at Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign. His other subjects have included Norman Mailer, Bob Dylan, and David Bowie.
Cool. Yeah, I guess.
As said, I love Otis Redding's music, and I've honestly never seen him live, so that was cool. Like that I appreciated. So I guess that's a win for this. There's like a really weird montage of crowd shots over one particular song, which suggests to me that they just didn't have footage of him actually performing the song for whatever reason, and so they just use a bunch of like pre-recorded like shots of crowds, like of the pretty girl getting caught being like I'm being filmed.
The Who?
And just like people in the crowd. And you're like, oh, this is like not when they were listening to the song. It's just like from various points from the other bigger, longer documentary.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a stage performer.
What a guy. What are we talking about right now?
You want to find out who hates Monterey Pop?
Yeah, other than Jarrett.
I don't.
Actually, before we get in that, was it as bad as you thought it would be, or was it just? Was it exactly what you thought?
It was exactly what I thought.
Okay, that's fine.
It went by fast. It's only an hour 20 minutes, and because you're not having to like fully necessarily pay attention to things, because it's not like a beautifully shot documentary. You're basically just watching it as like a time capsule of a place and time, and that's about it. And then you can think about like, oh yeah, I like this song, or I don't like this song, or I think the studio recording of this sounds better, which some people say is blasphemy, but
well,
whatever. So RJ,
go for it.
Who hates 1 star Alan Bessa?
Okay.
It's good to listen to these artists from the past, but calling this a documentary, right? What else would you call it, RJ?
It is literally a slice of life, Jarrett.
Is it?
Yeah, well, no, it's a documentary.
Yeah, it's a document.
That's all it is.
Yep.
That's all it is, Jarrett.
Thumbs down, Alan.
They just like Criterions.
Okay.
That's it. And even their not liked movies aren't very interesting. This person's not interesting. Fuck them.
Okay. Rachel, 1 star. I only watched half of this, but ugh. Ravi Shankar was great. What? Wait,
is that sarcastic? Or?
You only watched half of this, but like Ravi Shankar's the whole bottom half, so you only watched the second half, I guess.
Second half?
Ravi Shankar was great. Jimi Hendrix and all of the Who need to stop smashing things. Take care of your possessions, please. Ugh.
I think that's some of that try hard pithy stuff where it's like, you shouldn't be smashing, you should be loving. Rachel gave 5 stars to Call Me by Your Name.
There you go.
Which is all there is to say.
And here we got Joey B with 1.5 star. 1967. 50 years ago in Monterey, California. The digitally restored and sound remastered version, which is not the option given here in this site, has come out, and it's a celebratory, nostalgic look at a pivotal musical festival that helped give voice to the white-dominated hippie movement.
Okay.
I watched the original in 1968 years ago, and it was fabulous, but this version has had a pair of scissors taken to it and wrecked it.
What did you want? Like the full 3 days?
I don't know. There were so many other great performances in the original version, and to have them edited out just felt like a slap in the face. There are wonderful bits to see in this revision, and the sound is good, but I can't recommend anyone seeing it who saw the original, or if you can see the original footage, much available on YouTube and clips. Good idea. Bad execution by Criterion.
I don't think that's anything to do with Criterion.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they didn't make the movie.
Well, I guess they released an inferior version because it's not as fabulous and full.
Oh, well, I
think there's like on the set, there's like 2 hours of outtakes as well. So I don't know. Obviously, you didn't do your due diligence and watch every single square inch of that set.
Not as much as Joey B, but Joey B's bio says, "I've seen a hell of a lot of films." And psychologically twisted ones are my favorite. They also just gave Call Me By Your Name 5 stars. Jarrett, they also just gave The Florida Project 1.5 stars.
That's why I selected this one.
Yeah, but the most egregious is a single half star. That's right, 0.5 stars for Creeps approved 5-star film, Swiss Army Man. Just ridiculous. Ridiculous, Jared.
Ridiculous. And there's even one negative review for Shake, the Otis part.
Really?
I'll read this one here to you. From Tyler Ward, 2.5 stars. Redding sure made it sound like Aretha Franklin stole respect. Glad she did. It's a better song, and it has the exact opposite message from Redding's original. Otis Redding's music was kind of sexist, and Pennebaker's montage editing during Try a Little Tenderness was kind of sexist, too.
What? How can editing be sexist?
I don't know. Maybe
the fuck is he talking about?
Maybe there's too many shots of, like, I don't know, gyrating.
What? Like, that fucking blows my mind.
When Jimmy's, like, thrusting into the speakers, he made things pretty sexy.
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with that, like the editing.
I don't know. Hey, remember? Maybe there's like shots of like girls, and it's like, sexy. Yeah, I don't understand.
Who fucking cares?
Do you remember in Gimme Shelter? There's like that bit with like Ike and Tina, and she's just like filleting that microphone.
Actually gross though. So, hey, Jarrett.
RJ, does female sexuality make you disgusted?
All sexuality does. I'm taking a hard stance.
Okay.
Everyone should keep that shit in the sanctity of their own homes. Especially you chud.
I didn't know that this podcast was the home to kink shaming.
It is. People should feel bad about the stuff they do. People don't feel bad enough about stuff that they do anymore. And I think that's hurting society.
Like a true Catholic boy.
Shame and guilt is good for you. It is. It makes you a better person.
Yeah.
Unlike Tyler Ward, who gave Call Me By Your Name 5 stars. But they also gave Swiss Army Man 5 stars.
Oh.
So it's a little confusing. It's all like all of their 5 stars are Criterions and Disney, but also somehow Gummo is in there, 5 stars.
Shit, yeah.
Which is weird. And then there's not a lot of like low ratings, except for Ace Ventura has a 1 star, which is like...
Heaven forbid.
That's a good show. I'll go to bat for that any day of the week. I'll take you out, brother. I don't understand. Like people are like, oh, that's like trans shaming. And it's like, no, it's not. Relax. Jarrett, relax. Relax. Oh, they also just gave Halloween 2 stars, Mad Max 2 stars, The Shining 2 stars. Good Lord. These are bad opinions.
They're all bad. All opinions are bad.
Yeah, that's true. So.
Oh, I didn't go in my hippie talk.
Oh,
that's too bad.
It's fine. Oh, I never talked about contamination.
That's fine.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. No. That movie's not great anyways.
So, there we are. Monterey Pop.
Or are we still talking?
Over and out.
Are we still doing the outro?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
After the after the break, RJ's going to keep in his pants and go live in a monastery.
I always keep it in my pants.
Yeah. And
because sexuality is gross.
Yeah. No drinking. No sensuality.
Drunk monks are pretty drunk.
I see.
They just don't bang people.
There you go.
That's the kind of life